Welcome to the First Responder Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Conrad Weaver, and I'm so glad that you're here today because today is a special day. Today is our 100th episode of the First Responder Wellness Podcast, and I'm really thrilled to bring you the guests that I have on today. It's a very, like I said, it's a very special show. You know, it's been an amazing journey bringing these conversations to you, and I hope that we can do it for a long time to come. Well, today's episode is also special because I have two people on the show who have been a big part of why I'm doing this and why I'm bringing you content like this and helping first responders in the area of wellness. A few years ago, we premiered the film PTSD 911. It's a documentary that I produced, and since then, we've been bringing it all across the country to cities and communities from Bangor, Maine to San Diego, California to Seattle, Washington. It's been an amazing journey. And today I have two guests who have been an important part of this journey. But before I introduce them, and this is a two-part episode, be sure to listen all the way to the end for a very special coupon code you can use to save 30% on the purchase of the PTSD 911 film for your agency. We've never had this big of a discount, and it's not going to last forever, so please listen for it at the end of the show. So my first guest is retired police officer Desireé Palmer. Yep, Desiree is on the show today. If you've seen the film, you know a little bit about her story. She was sidelined from her job after several injuries and after being on the job for more than 20 years. And she had a PTSD diagnosis, and she struggled with her mental health for a few years, and we document that in the PTSD 911 film. And at the end of the film, you could tell she had made some progress, but was still really in limbo about a lot of things. Well, today she's here to give us an update. And just a quick note, part 2 of this episode will feature my recent conversation with the other person that's in this film, firefighter Matthew Fiorenza. And so be sure to take a listen to part 2 as soon as you finish this one because it's available today as well. And I'm hoping to get a part 3 of this episode. Yes, a 3-part episode. That's crazy, I know. But I'm hoping to do that with a conversation with the family members of Nicole Ford. So be tuned in for that coming up in the very near future. Hey, if this show has helped you in any way, please subscribe and then share it with your friends, share it with your colleagues, and especially your leadership. That would mean the world to me. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Desireé Palmer. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you.
This is a little bit different than I usually do. Usually I'm looking at a screen and, but this is better having someone in my studio. So Desiree, tell us a little bit about what you've been up to.
Well, I decided to start living again.
Yeah.
Finally got out of the darkness.
It took a while.
It did. It took about 2 or 3 years, and a lot of therapy, a lot of soul searching, some painful moments.
Sure.
And I'm back to doing what makes me feel better. I'm mentoring a little kid, teaching him about life. He's got parent problems. He's like 10 or 11. And I'm supporting him and trying to get him into a better person. He told me the other day he wants me on the SWAT team. I suggested maybe an attorney, but and I'm
Suggest a therapist to start with.
There
right?
you go, right? And then I also mentor a little girl I met. Actually, there was on our heroin documentary, the girl that was dating the boy under the pavilion.
Yeah.
His girlfriend. I mentored her for probably the past, 10 or 15 years.
Oh, wow.
I forget when we did that documentary now because of my PTS memory. Anyhow, she's grown up to be a corrections officer.
Oh, wow.
And she's now having issues with him, which she reminded me last night that I told her it was going to ruin her life. So I'm mentoring her and just kind of guiding her along into stuff. So I'm doing things that are positive again.
Yeah.
Instead of isolating myself like I was for a couple of years.
That was a big part of kind of your story is that isolation, right?
Yeah. And I realized looking back on it, that was what I did a lot as a child to protect myself. You know, my household was that way where if I was in a dark, quiet place, that's where I was safe.
Yeah.
And so I resorted back to that during my painful moments after I lost my job and had all the surgeries. Yeah.
So, how did you crawl out of that dark corner?
I truly think my therapist, who's a retired state trooper, had a lot to do with it.
Mm.
It just took time,
Yeah.
and it took just so much thinking, and then understanding and forgiving myself for the things that were out of my control. I think I blamed myself, and I had a lot of guilt over, you know, some of my friends who I lost to suicide and PTSD.
Do you think that's a normal reaction? Common, or maybe more common is maybe the better word.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it's subconscious too. I think sometimes you don't even realize you're mad at yourself. And it takes a lot to wake up and realize, hey, I'm holding on to anger to myself for things out of my control. And, you know, the only way to get to the other side of that is to feel it and acknowledge it and understand that these things happen. You know, you can't fix everybody. And if you're in a place where you're struggling, you know, I had 12 wrist surgeries and I was recovering from, you know, the anesthesia on that impacts your brain majorly. People don't realize, you know, as well as the fact that I'd worked for 25 years and, you know, the way that I went out wasn't the way I wanted to go at all. You know, nobody wants to go out on injury.
Yeah.
You know, that's not the hero way to retire. But to think back on it, that was the Lord doing me a favor and getting me out when the time was right. You know, I have my retirement. I have everything. So I just had to learn to forgive everybody, including the people I didn't want to. You know, I was mad at people.
Yeah.
And that made me want to hide even more.
Yeah.
But, you know, it took a lot of courage for me to wake up and realize that that's not the way I want to be.
So how do you forgive?
You just have to learn to accept people for what they are, you know, understand that maybe there's something in their life that was going on at the time that I don't know about, or something that happened in their past that made them react the way that they did towards me, you know, and it's not personal. People think police work is all this personal stuff. It's a business just like everything else, you know, and that's unfortunate because you think, you know, the thin blue line, we have each other's back, and that's just not the case anymore. You know, it's just a business.
That can be hard to hear for some people.
Yeah. It hurt me badly, you know, the feeling of betrayal, of abandonment of my brothers and sisters, you know, that I now recognize they loved me the whole time. I disappeared and they have lives and families and they were busy. So if I'm not reaching out to them for help, they don't know I'm hurting, you know, and so I had to learn that as well because I was used to the team, you know, we were all there together. But if you disappear and you're hiding in your house, they just don't know what's going on.
At what point do you have to look at yourself and realize that your life experiences made you who you are and accept that?
Multiple times a day, you know, quite honestly, you know, I walk around my house and there's reminders of painful moments. You know, I run into little things and it could be a sticker on the refrigerator that reminds me and it breaks me. An item, you know, a wristband, anything. And so I have to remind myself of that every day.
I know in the past you were able to connect with and meet some other people, other retired officers who you discovered had a similar story. How did that help you?
Well, you know, it's funny. On my way over here today, I got off the phone with my friend who was retired from out in California. She was on the police force. And I met her during a time where I was really struggling 3 or 4 years ago. We speak weekly, daily. She's always there if I need to talk. She actually introduced me to my therapist, even from way out in California.
Wow.
I don't know how she found a guy in Maryland, but, you know, So I just rely on the people that I can trust now. And I've come to realize if I'm having a moment, if I sit around the house, that moment, I'm going down that rabbit hole of sadness alone. So I've learned, I have to reach out. So I call her, or I call, a few of the coworkers that I know from my prior department who will always be there for me.
So how has being a part of this film and this whole project, how's that impacted you?
Well, I think it's given me a lot of purpose again. I have people that message and call me daily that I've met through the film. Um, the sheriff up in Maine reached out to me a couple days ago, and he was struggling, and I was able to be there for him, as a friend. And the feeling of knowing that, he felt like he was alone in what he, had dealt with that day, and it was horrible. And to know that he reached out to me to tell me he was hurting and felt alone, and I could remind him of the things that I needed to hear in my times, like, hey man, you're never alone. I'm a phone call away and I'll fly up there in a minute just to hang out and cheer you up. So I've met so many people along the way, and it's given me so much purpose and hope. And I recognize that the film was traumatic. It caused a lot of pain for me. And just to film it and rewatch it repeatedly, that, I really truly had to learn how to watch it without hurting. But, if I hadn't have been able to get my story out and tell it, I wouldn't have healed quite as fast as I did. There's lessons in suffering. It's not fun to go through, but if you don't get it out and tell the world and let them learn from the things that you did wrong in life that impacted your PTS or your symptoms or whatever trauma you have, then are you really doing what God put you on earth for?
So as we were coming in the building today, we were talking about, going through the hard thing. And so when you're facing that storm and you got to go through it, you can do a couple things. You can just shrivel up and hide, or you can pull on your big girl britches and go through it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And unfortunately, for the first year or so, that's what I did. I hid in isolation, and there was no healing in that.
That's important.
Yeah.
Because so many people, that's what we do when we are hurting, right?
Yeah.
We tend to withdraw.
Yeah.
I like that statement that there's no healing in that.
Yeah.
And you found that out firsthand.
Absolutely. It almost cost me my life. There was sitting around doing nothing isn't going to make anything better. It's bad for your health, physical and mental. It's bad for all your relationships. Impacts your finances, everything you can think of. It's just not a good way to be at all. And you're not doing anything proactively as a service to others, which also provides a lot of healing in your brain, because you're still being of a productive member of society instead of sitting on your couch feeling sorry for yourself.
You can't move forward. You can't get past. So you can't get through the storm.
No, and it's like you're frozen, honestly. And there's days where doing the dishes seem like this monumental task. There's 3 dishes in the sink. It takes 5 minutes, but I was in such a bad place where even that felt overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you were able to figure that out and push through. And I know that you still have hard days. And what do you do now on a daily to get you through those hard days?
I reach out to people. I stay busy instead of just sitting around. The mentoring of the others that I've mentioned, that helps me tremendously, because I always hear the little tap at my door and know it's the neighbor kid, wanting to go hike or bike or whatever. and staying in contact with my friends instead. You know, they've been so much support to me, and shutting them out, it just, you know, for what? Because I was mad at myself. And I mentioned my therapist. I had a rough week this week. You know, so many anniversaries coming up. The loss of my friend, the dispatcher, Nicole, my firefighter friend, Wayne, my coworker who got in a car wreck and died. That, and along with my birthday, causes me this time of year to have a hard time. So I spilled it all to the therapist this morning, who he's a tough, salty guy, right? He's a retired state trooper who is tough as nails. He's been there. And my stories that I told him today brought him to tears. He had a box of tissues, and it told me I wasn't wrong for feeling the hurt I felt when I was telling him about it.
Wow.
And the headspace I was in prior to talking to him as opposed to after talking to him was completely different. I was walking around the house all morning in tears, you know. I'm sitting here, I've told you 3 or 4 stories that are very painful to me, and I haven't shed a tear yet. And that's what the therapy has done for me. It's allowed me to talk about this stuff instead of holding it in.
What would you say to that cop that's out there that's watching or listening to this, and they're kind of where you were? What should they do?
There's no shame in getting a little help. It takes a lot of courage to make that phone call and get some therapy, or to call a friend and say, hey man, can we talk? Can we hang out? The amount of courage that it actually takes to acknowledge that is insurmountable. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's scary and it's frightening to tell somebody you're in pain. I was tough as nails as a police officer for years. Kind, polite, respectful, but tough as nails. And nothing I thought hurt until it did. And I think had I reached out and got some help a little earlier in life, I wouldn't have dealt with the past 2 or 3 years of pain the way that I did.
This morning, or earlier today, I was on a podcast on someone else's show, and he asked me what I would say to first responders. You know, what should they do to be better, or if I was talking to like a new recruit, what's the first thing they should do? And I said the first thing you should do as a new recruit is get a therapist. You know, and unpack your life from there back, you know, because that's going to impact you in the future.
Yeah. I mean, and the unfortunate thing is a lot of police officers, firefighters, first responders, they had that childhood that was horrible, but that's what molded them into wanting to be of service to others. You know, just like myself, my ACEs score, the adverse childhood experience score, is a 10. My childhood was a nightmare, and I didn't accept it for years. But being able to unpack all that finally at the age of 45, yeah, I'm that age. I won't tell anybody. Yeah, top secret. I hid it for 40 years. Yeah. For what? I didn't do anything wrong. I was a kid.
Right.
You know, it's...
I know you did a lot of work with Dan Jarvis and the Trauma Resiliency Protocol. What did that do for you?
I actually went through it again earlier this year, I think it was. Forgive my memory. To get some of the new trauma that I had dealt with erased. Because even though I had been through his program 2 or 3 other times already, and it brought me back down to baseline, more trauma happened since that, which adds on, and it impacts your old trauma and brings all that back to light. So I had a lot left to go over again, because I lost more friends. I've lost friends through this film, multiple people that really hurt. And to be able to get rid of some of that through his program was major.
Yeah, yeah. So what brings you joy?
Well, my dogs. Can't help it. I was gifted a puppy, so I have Maxwell and Jethro.
Okay. I haven't met Jethro yet.
Oh, he's a pain. He's an 8-pound wonder.
Okay.
So
he's a little guy.
Yeah. He thinks he's a German Shepherd. So, yeah. And then I'm back to fishing and hunting again.
Okay.
Which if you know me, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And those couple years that I was on the couch, I didn't do it at all.
Yeah.
And I'm taking the kid I mentor, the little one, out hunting this year with me, and he's super excited about a first buck. Yeah. So I'm just back to doing the things that made me happy and living and helping people and doing what I can to make the world a better place.
How much has helping others, and what's that done for you?
It's given me that feeling of happiness back. You know, I'm laughing again. I'm sharing my old people wisdom with others, coaching them along in life the best I can to be the best they can. There's so much warmness you feel in your heart for that. It's unbelievable.
I hear a lot of wisdom coming out of you, and you got that wisdom because you went through this difficulty.
Yeah, it took a lot of pain to get to that. And it took confronting every bit of that head on and learning from it. I literally can tell you stories all day long of things that happened during my career that shaped me.
You know, something I've said oftentimes, and I'll say it till I die, is that we don't learn much on the easy days.
Yeah, that's unfortunate truth.
Right. That sucks.
It certainly does.
That we have to go through the hard days to learn something.
Yeah, that's 100% truth. You know, as hard as it is to go through those days, if you don't have that hard lesson, you don't make changes in your life.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. You know, whether it's your health, it's your, mental health. You know, if you don't learn not to go break your arm, you don't know how bad it hurts.
You know, I know there's a lot of people that listen to the podcast or watch the show, and people that have come to our screenings. Everyone always asks about you, how you're doing. And because, at the end of the film, you were still in a pretty rough spot.
Yeah.
You were there was a little glimmer of hope, but you were still in a pretty rough spot, and things kind of went, up and down since then, but now it's mostly on the up. And so I know everyone's going to be so happy to hear from you and to see you. So I just want you to talk to the thousands of people who have seen the film and just give them a little word from Desiree.
Well, first of all, thank you for the support. The many of you that have reached out to me along the way to tell me the Me Too made me feel so less alone. It was hard to film the documentary, and there were times I was so uncomfortable telling my true feelings during the film, and you could read it on my face through the tears and the pain that everybody saw. And I think that's what connected me with so many people was real. There's no faking that amount of pain.
Yeah.
And I had hundreds of Me Too's along the way. So many people waiting to give me a hug after a screening because they felt everything I said on the film to the core. And my personally knowing that it made a difference in so many people's lives, you can't buy that with money. That's a feeling that's priceless. It's always going to be hard to watch, and it's always going to be hard for these guys that are still doing the job to feel. But knowing, I'm not alone and they're not alone, and maybe somebody learned to step up and get help instead of doing like I was doing. I'm just going to work 24 hours a day so I can't think. Or what some of the others do with the alcohol or drug use. Instead of doing that, maybe they learned from something I said and got therapy or
Yeah.
talked to a buddy and intervened in that little disaster circle earlier in life, so they didn't have to go through the extra years of pain like I did.
Yeah. Well,
So I appreciate every single one of them.
I just want to again say thank you for being willing to be vulnerable. And I have to say that this whole movie was your idea. So.
Well, thank you for the credit. That was a rough day as well that neither of us will forget.
I know. Yeah. I was talking about that today on the podcast I was on.
Yeah.
And how impactful that was for both of us.
Yeah. I don't know that you knew at the time. That was a little girl I had mentored and done everything I could to get her sober.
Yeah.
And I never said a word that day to you because that was how bad my mindset was. I was so upset inside about her death that I couldn't really share as much. But so much positive came out of that. Mm-hmm. And just like you said, our idea to collectively do the film, it's impacted thousands of people. Yeah. So the pain from that day that I still feel has still managed to help teach all these other guys and first responders that watch the film something about life for themselves. Yeah.
It's amazing how, and if you're wondering about the film, it was called Heroine's Grip, that she was a part of, and that's how we met back in 2016 or something like that.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a minute. And but yeah, it was, and that scene, and I asked you, do you guys like have problems with PTSD? And you were like, are you kidding me? Are you been living under a rock? Something like that.
The worst part of that is I had an entire list of all the other officers with PTSD that I was going to give you. I'm like, oh, you can talk to this guy. He's got it. You can talk to this guy. He's got it.
And both of us didn't realize you'd be.
Yeah. You'd be filming the crash just like it was happening. That disaster that was going on, Yeah. And but that's so real, everything that happened was the way that it happened.
Yeah.
And everything happened for a reason. And, even though I couldn't participate in the film to help you produce it like I wanted to, I was still able to tell my story and make a huge difference in people's lives.
And it is. It's. I mean, we've literally had thousands of people, at our screening. We've had 78 screening events around the country.
Wow. I didn't realize.
Yeah. Well, Desiree, it's great to see you. It's great to see you making progress and moving forward, and that you're not standing still and hiding in your hole.
Yeah, and it's great to laugh and smile again. I hope you see a little bit of that person you first met instead of the one that, was struggling again.
Yeah. You know what I actually see? I see someone who's better than the person I first met.
Well, that'd be nice and very positive. I hope so.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Thank you for that.
Yep.
That made me feel super warm and fuzzy in my eyes heart.
I really do. I've seen, when you first met, you were pretty intense.
That's a good way to put it.
Because you were dealing with some real, you were dealing with some shit,
Yeah, it was.
And, but yeah, you're in a better place than you were even then. So
it's been a journey.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do it alone. That's not the way that you can do it. And I'll refer to it as a hero's journey. And that's exactly what everybody that's out there wearing a badge and rolling fire hose is going through.
Yeah.
And once they get to the other side of that, the feeling will give you these chills that you see and that happiness and the smile back.
Yeah. That was Desireé Palmer. It's amazing to hear the hard work that she's been doing in her recovery. And Desiree, I'm so very proud of you for being willing to come on the show and to talk about that journey. Hey, if you have not seen the film, and I know there's listeners out here who have not seen the film, I encourage you to order it today for your agency. Yes, it is available for your agency to use for training, to use it in your academy, bring your people together to start a conversation about wellness. And I encourage you to do that. And you can do that right now by visiting ptsd911movie.com/toolkit. That's ptsd911movie.com/toolkit. and you can order it today. And because you're a podcast listener, you can save 30% on the cost of the film for your agency by using the coupon code PTSD911SAVE30. That coupon code again is PTSD911SAVE30, all one word. Put that in the coupon box and it'll knock 30% off the cost of that film. And the cool thing is you get this film, you get another documentary plus a bunch of other content that we call the educational toolkit. It's all available right now for you if you go to ptsd911movie.com/toolkit, order it, and put in that coupon code and save 30%. Hey, Harry, this is not going to last forever. I'm not going to keep it at 30% off forever, but get it today and show your team and get them talking. And let me know. Let me know what you think. Let me know the feedback that you've gotten. And be sure to listen to the next episode with my conversation with Matthew Fiorenza. And finally, as always, please remember that you are not alone. And if you need someone to talk to and don't know where you can turn, you can dial 988 for help. Until next time, be well, take care of yourself and those around you, and go out there and do something great in the world.